What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another Comically Boston Breakdown episode. And today we are talking about the season finale to Daredevil Born Again, episode 9, titled Straight to Hell. And it does seem like poor Matt Murdock is heading straight to hell after this season, and the city of New York is heading straight to hell heading into season 2. But boy oh boy has season 1 been good, and season 2 is currently filming in New York, so we should get season 2 probably this same time next year. I'm guessing March or April of 2026 we'll get season 2, so we won't have to wait too long. I mean, but by the end of this episode, I wanted it immediately. Like, I wanted to click on season 2 right now, but we'll have to wait. But I got some different posters here I want to talk about before we get into this thing. This poster that we'll be using for today, The Devil's Work is Never Done, and it's Kingpin and Daredevil as they're back, and the cracks in the marble or stone, like the intro of this show. Really good. And then a couple of other posters. This one here was a fan-made poster, kind of with the braille and the glasses and the blood drip, kind of like the Netflix Daredevil show, but the blood drip is Wilson Fisk's face. Love that. And then there's the Daredevil poster that was released earlier this season, teasing the Muse art, and then of course the Fisk poster as well. And yeah, no, this Muse arc, the Kingpin arc, like the Punisher stuff, all of it, like, I've really enjoyed. Heather, I mean, it's been good, but man, do I want to see what's coming next. And if anyone thinks that this show is a bad show, this is what I have to say to you.
Fuck you.
I can't believe he said fuck you in last week's episode, but coming off of last week's episode, our boy Wilson Fisk has been getting chunky. The boy looks big, and you know, much bigger than he looked at the beginning of the season. And Vanessa killed Adam in front of Fisk so that they're back together at like peak Kingpin power. And Bullseye is on the loose and shot at Fisk, but Matt jumped in the way and Matt took a bullet for Fisk. And that's where we left off last week, with Matt on the ground with a bullet in his chest. And you're like, are you serious? This is where we left off? But we open this week's episode, and we open the finale, episode 9, on the blue of Bullseye's, you know, tunnel vision, as we're looking at his eyeball down the barrel of his scope of his gun. And we hear the gunshot, but we cut to a picture of a deer on the wall. And it's a flashback 1 year ago, before Bullseye killed Foggy. And we see Bullseye and Vanessa talking at like his prison or mental facility, wherever he's being held. And we find out that Vanessa had Dex released to kill Benny, dumb Benny, Foggy's client, and his lawyer, Foggy Nelson, because Foggy's client had dirt on Vanessa, and if he exposed it, it would have exposed something very bad for Vanessa. So she had him wiped off the table so that to protect herself, you know what I mean? But, you know, so Vanessa had Foggy killed by Bullseye because his client was going to rat on Vanessa. Like, damn, she really was the queen pin. But Vanessa also tells Dex that my husband isn't a part of this, and Dex thinks Fisk is always a part of this. He's always involved somehow. But she says, trust me, and has him sign his paper, and he signs his life away to her pretty much, and she says he's free. And then as she says he's free, we cut back to the present day as we see from Dex's point of view that he was thinking about shooting Vanessa, and he had a scope on her, but then he saw Fisk and decided to shoot at him, and Matt jumped in front of the bullet, and that's where the intro of this episode hits, and we get that beautiful, some stone falling apart, and then Daredevil getting born again out of the ashes of the rock, if you understand what I'm saying. We cut after the intro to Matt waking up in the hospital, and his first words when he wakes up from his gunshot wound is, Karen! And Heather's standing there, and Kirsten's like, it's the drugs, don't, and then Matt's like, Heather? Oh, are you okay? You know, like, realizing that he didn't say Heather's name, you know, like, almost like in Harry Potter when Ron's hurt and that little stupid girlfriend he has walks up and he goes, Hermione, and then she cries and runs away. It was kind of like that scene. And Matt waking up afterwards, right, and he's all on pain medication and sounding crazy to them, but Matt wakes up like, Vanessa had Foggy killed, and I don't know why, but I know for sure that she did it, like, but we gotta find Foggy's file that he never got to file against her, and, you know, find the evidence on what Foggy got himself killed for, you know what I mean? Like, what was Vanessa trying to silence him for? We then cut over to Fisk and Vanessa back at their house, and Vanessa's all, you know, drinking because she's shaking because she's nervous, and they are still in their outfits from the dance, and Fisk still has Matt's blood splattered all over his white outfit, but look at the broadness of Fisk's shoulders there, like, the boy is beefy. I love the parallels throughout this season. When something's happening to Matt, we also cut to see what Wilson's going through, because when one of them's going through something, the other's also going through something at the same moment. So they parallel cut back and forth this episode and multiple episodes throughout the season. If something's going on one side, they show you the parallel of what's going on the other side. If Matt's doing something good, what's Fisk doing that's bad, right? Like, there's always a parallel to the opposite side of them doing something similar to each other. Like, Matt's recovering in the hospital, Fisk is talking down Vanessa, recovering from almost getting shot, you know? Like, it's like poetry, it rhymes. Matt tells Kirsten that he's gotta find Foggy's file that he never got to file against Vanessa, but Matt can't get up right now because he got shot. And they're like, no, you have to stay here and rest. You're losing your mind if you think you're about to stand up and leave. And Heather's sitting here like, this guy's crazy. I'm totally worried about him. He thinks Fisk is out to get him. Like, and Heather still hasn't put together that he's Daredevil. Or maybe she has, but she's like, why won't he just tell me type of shit. And Kirsten's also, you know, figuring it out and kind of on to him at this point. Like, you know, what is your deal? We then cut back over to Fisk and Vanessa, and Fisk says to her that Vanessa moved millions through Red Hook, and with him as mayor, they can move billions. And he said, at first I ran as mayor to protect the city, but when opportunity presents itself, and he kind of like smirks, and Vanessa kind of smirks at him too, because Vanessa likes that this Kingpin version of him is back. She didn't necessarily love Wilson, she loves the Kingpin. Matt tells Heather, Fisk is dangerous. I'm sorry you don't believe me, but that's the truth. And Heather is like, maybe I should come back after you get some rest, and leaves. And immediately I was like, oh boy, oh no. No more Matt and Heather. That's not good. And like the way she like kissed Matt's cheek, and Matt's just like staring at the ceiling, just like, she doesn't believe me, she thinks I'm crazy, and yeah, we'll find out what Heather's fate is heading into season 2. Screw that bitch. We then cut over to Fisk all fired up, yelling at his task force and his mayor's like people, and like Sheila and Daniel and everybody in the room, and Commissioner Gallo's there, and he's saying we need to seal the city and find the shooter that tried to kill him. And, you know, they're like, you can't seal the city. He's like, oh, we are sealing the city. They tried to kill me. You know, like, he's pissed. And then he, you know, adjourns the meeting and everyone leaves, but Fisk holds Buck for a second and says, hey Buck, what's the condition on Matthew Murdock? And he tells him, and he says, you know, maybe you should go and our heroic lawyer friend should succumb to his wounds, if you know what I mean. Because maybe a dead hero is better than an alive vigilante. And Buck's like, okay. And Buck leaves. So Buck is aware that Matt is Daredevil? Interesting. We cut back to the hospital, and Kirsten is talking to Matt, and she says, Matt, listen, I'm really glad that you're okay, but we need to have a serious conversation after all this. And she's clearly, you know, onto him and knows what's up, and she's like, listen, you're not acting like yourself. What is up here? I hope Matt ends up telling Kirsten that he is Daredevil and having another person that he can trust. But if he doesn't tell her, you know, it's probably for her own safety. But like, other than Karen and Frank knowing that he's Daredevil, really the only other person that knows is Cherry and Foggy, because in my mind Foggy's still alive. I might be in denial, and I'm standing on that ground. Foggy is alive. We then cut back to Fisk's office, and Sheila and Fisk talk, and he says to her, in business, there's always a tipping point in a negotiation. That's where the city is right now, and it just needs a little push. And it kind of is the line from The Dark Knight where Heath Ledger's upside down, and he's like, aggressive expansion. We just need a little push. And he starts laughing and going crazy and shit. And that's like the last time we see Heath Ledger's Joker. But Fisk says the city needs a little push, and she's like, and what would that push be? And Sheila's a smart lady, and he's like, you're a very perceptive woman. I bet you know who is and who is not loyal around here. And she's like, yeah, you could say I have my ear to the ground. And he says, anyone that is not fully on board, send them home. And she's like, oh, okay. And then we see Commissioner Gallo is fed up with Fisk and thinking he's above the law, and is talking to Sheila and says there are still sane people in the building, and he's betting that Sheila is one of the sane people in the building and is hoping for her support against Fisk. And she's kind of like, yeah, sure, I can't go with you to Albany, but yeah, sure, I'll put in a word against Fisk. And he's like, yeah, thank you. And we then see the whole city's power grid goes out. And this is because Fisk had the power guy turn out the entire city power grid so that Buck could go over to the hospital and kill Matt. And we cut over to Buck at the hospital walking into Matt's room, and Matt's gotten up himself and walked out when the power went out. And he's walking out in his nightgown, still bleeding, and just kind of like, you know, but like, you know, Daredevil can take a punch and apparently take a bullet as well. After Matt walks out of the hospital, he heads back to his apartment in his nightgown. We then cut to Matt back at his apartment, still bleeding through his nightgown, and he smirks when he walks through the door. And I'm like, what's that about? And he walks in, and we see that Frank Castle is in Matt's apartment, and he's got a shave and a haircut. And I love the little shot of of Frank here, because the power's out in the city, and he brought his own little lantern, and he's just been standing there waiting for Matt. And, you know, why he had a full beard and full crazy hair early in the season and has a shave and a haircut now, I'm not sure, but hey, whatever. Frank's doing his thing. Or maybe Frank shaved and got a haircut because he knew who he might see later this episode. But Frank calls Matt Nightgown Man, and Frank's all pissed because he can't make coffee, and Frank says he got a phone call and he promised to get Matt out alive. And he's like, phone call from who? You mind expanding on who that was from? And he's like, no, I am not. And but who is this phone call from? Karen? That's my guess. But I have a clip here of him calling him Nightgown Man.
Power goes out. You got nothing to make a goddamn pot of coffee in this house.
Well, not everyone lives in a fallout shelter, Frank.
Is that a new costume? What do they call you now? Nightgown Man.
What about you? After shave and a haircut? That all for me?
Yeah, I did it for you.
After shaving a haircut, did that all for me? No, I think he did it for who called him. Which is just sweet, because Frank is like, he cares. You know, and it just further points out that he cares. But he's also in his traditional Punisher look with the shaved face, with the haircut, and he's calling, hey, what is that your new costume? What are you now, Nightgown Man? Oh, God. But then Frank says to him, hey, Red, why would you take a bullet for that asshole? Matt sits up and goes, that is a good question. Like, why did I jump in front of the bullet? Was it just Matt reacting and just kind of like, And then he afterwards was like, shit, I should have let Fisk take this one. But Matt, as he's talking to Frank, hears the task force is coming in and arriving down in the basement floor. And Frank's like, you're not going to fight him with your ass out?
They're on the move.
Your ass hanging out.
Oh, I died so hard at that line. Like, he's walking away in the nightgown, and you're like, oh, he's gonna go suit up as Daredevil. And he's like, you're not gonna fight him with your ass out? And he flips off friggin' Punisher behind him, friggin' Frank. And I laughed so hard watching that. But now that I'm thinking about it, the only thing that would have made that shot even better is if they cut to Frank's perspective as he said that, and then you see the back of Matt, and you see Charlie Cox's ass and a middle finger in the back of him. That shot would have been so funny, but you get the point either way. It's supposed to be like, hey, you didn't see his ass, but the whole time that he walked from the hospital to his apartment, he was in a nightgown with his ass hanging out. So it's just funny. We then see the task force rush into Matt's apartment, and Daredevil and Punisher team up, and Daredevil's really beating him with the batons and knocking him out cold and, you know, taking him down without murder. And Frank is going straight to the murder route. He knows what these guys have been up to. He knows they've been bad guys, and he's taking them out. He's not giving them another chance to go harm somebody else. And he's Frank, Punisher screaming, ooh, tackles a guy up over a counter, jumps over the counter, tackles another guy. Ooh. He's like, pushes a guy into a table, and then we see a shot from below, and it is dark because the power's out in the city, but still, we see a guy's head on a table, and then Frank's shooting the guy's head through the table, and we just see the blood splatter in the bullet holes under the table. Great shot. But it's absolutely wild. Like, Frank's, on the ground, shooting through walls, getting these guys as it's all lit by their flashlights and stuff like that. And then Cole North is about to shoot Daredevil, and Punisher dives and throws a knife through his hand, and like Cole North is like stabbed into the wall so he can't move. And we then find out that Cole North was the one who shot and killed Hector Ayala, because Punisher finds his Punisher embranded casing on his bullet casing on the ground, and he goes, oh, I think we found your culprit, and he flicks it over to Matt, and Matt's like, you killed Hector Ayala, he was a good man. And he starts to beat up Cole North, and he thinks about killing him, and Frank says, do it, and Matt's like, no, he's not worth it. And he's like, oh yeah, is that guy worth it? And Frank shoots a guy already dying on the ground, and he's like, what? And he pushes him, and he's like, what the hell is wrong with you? You're a fucking crazy man. You can't help yourself, can you? Every time we do something, you gotta turn yourself into a liability. And Matt starts, fighting with Daredevil, but then we hear a grenade is about to go off, and Matt goes, grenade! And they both run to leap out of the window, and they jump, and Matt, as they jump, he grabs Punisher and throws the baton, so it slows down their descent, if you would. But that baton's also supposed to hold one man, so it makes sense why after they jump, they slam down on top of a car and then roll out onto the street. But when the grenade went off, it destroyed Matt's apartment, and was Cole North the one that threw the grenade and survived? Or was someone else threw the grenade in there and Cole North died stabbed to the wall? Maybe. But they land on the ground, and Matt's like, you're an asshole, but I have the whole clip when someone pulls up, and someone that called Frank to protect Matt.
Come on, get in.
Shotgun.
So Karen pulls up, and Karen is the one that called Frank, and she just kind of goes, hop in. And I love the shot of the two of them standing in the street together with Punisher and the Daredevil in the red. It just looks so right. It looks so good to see Bernthal and Punisher back together, and Charlie Cox as the Daredevil, and the two of them fighting. Oh, it looks so good. I did want to bring up this a little bit. On Frank's chest, his right eye of his chest is like normal, and then the left eye of his chest, so our right, his left eye of the skull on his chest is like bigger for some reason than the other. I don't know what the deal is with that, but it is so good to see our boy Johnny Bernthal back. I mean, he just embodies the character in between D'Onofrio, Bernthal, and Charlie Cox. They all know that character so well, and their character so well. It's unbelievable. But I love Matt goes, shotgun? Like, what do you need shotgun for? He just wants the bigger seat because he's got a bullet hole in his chest. Frank's like, you're fucking tired of your shit. And they both limp over the car as Karen's waiting for him. But we then cut back to Frank's place as Karen is patching up Matt. And Frank is stitching himself up. And then Frank and Karen have this crazy sexual tension as Frank asks her if she wants a cup of coffee, because he's stitching himself up, and then he's in pain, and he's limping and groaning and shit, and she's like, you okay over there? And he's like, oh, never better. Karen, there's nothing a cup of coffee couldn't heal. And then asks her, his way of flirting and asking her if she would like to join him for a meal, even though his meals are cups of coffee. But here's the clip.
You want a cup?
No
thank you.
It's like such a long pause, but even Matt, like they cut to a shot of Matt of him like, oh, hearing something going on there, and he mentions later that like he can hear their heartbeats in this scene, and that they clearly are affecting each other. And I've been saying for years, ever since season 2 of Daredevil, that Karen and Frank have this connection that is palpable, and like she's a killer, he's a killer, like they understand each other. And like Frank, man, like I really love the two of them together, and the sexual tension was crazy in that scene. But Matt asked Karen if she would be his eyes as he needs to go look through files, and none of them are in Braille, so he's like, I need someone to tell me what this says, because it's written and typed out probably like Foggy would have been able to read it, right? So he's like, would you be my eyes and as we go hunt down for this file? And she's like, of course I would, I'll always be your eyes. And so it's Matt and Karen working together again, like old times against Fisk. I love it. And Frank says, the Inspect This Gadget shit is not for me. You guys have fun. And Karen says, you know what, Frank? I don't buy it. I don't believe that you don't care. And she goes to leave, and Frank says, Karen, you asked me to do you a favor, and I did it. And she's like, yeah, you did. Thank you. And then she leaves. And after she left, Frank says to himself, stay safe. So you're like, oh, he does care.
Stay safe.
Oh, and like the sad music and like the look on his face as she leaves, and he's like, stay safe. You know, like he's just hoping she stays safe. He knows she's with another vigilante Daredevil, so like theoretically she's got some protection around, and she can protect herself if she's got her gun on her. But Frank does care. Like, and that to me shows he absolutely does care, but he's broken. He can't. It's hard for him to love again after everything he's been through. You know, he's got too much trauma. We then cut over to Daniel talking to the council in his new position as deputy mayor of communications. And he kind of threatens the council and having a bit of dirt on them. We're talking about real estate dirt and like, hey, maybe we can compare notes, and how each of them are about to have a meeting individually with Mayor Fisk, and Buck chimes in supporting Daniel and like, you know, also threatening the council. And Daniel says, thank you, Buck. Just like Fisk. And, you know, it even looks like a little Fisk, like a little Fisk mini-me. And that's like where Daniel's heading into season 2. Like, he likes the power, he likes the threat. He's gonna be a little Tony Soprano Jr. Yeah, he is. A little Fisk Jr. Love it. We then see BB reports as the streets are in chaos, and then we see a cop kill a kid that's looting. And granted, the kid was smashing windows and looting a store, but the kid like stopped, dropped the things, and like standing there, and the cop shot the kid, and the cop's like, oh my god, he's just a kid. And his partner like pulls his hat down over his eyes and goes, nah, that's a masked vigilante. And you know, bad cops, but these are Fisk's task force out just killing kids. And when he pulled the mask down over the kid's eyes, it does kind of look like the mask that Matt wore in season 1 as like the man in the mask. We then see Matt and Karen talking while they're looking over the files and looking for Foggy's file. And Matt says he heard Karen and Frank's heartbeats. And she's like, oh, really? You heard his too? It's probably just adrenaline. And she's like, did you hear my heartbeat when I saw you? To Matt. And Matt's like, yeah, I did. Probably just adrenaline. And, you know, kind of just, you know, saying like, hey, heartbeats can be affected by all types of things. But I think Matt knows that she has many of feelings for Frank. But Karen's also kind of saying like, hey, I've missed you too, motherfucker. I didn't just love Frank. I didn't come back here for Frank. I called Frank to protect you, goddammit. And Matt's like, why didn't you call me? And she's like, call you to protect yourself? You wouldn't have liked that. But I have a clip of this whole scene where he's like, you talk to Frank a lot? And she's like, you sound like you're jealous. You know, back at his place, I heard your heartbeats. You heard his too? Oh yeah. It's just adrenaline, I'm sure. You know, like, I love this little scene. But Matt then finds a box with avocados at law, the box that he packed of Foggy's stuff. And I love this little scene between Matt and Karen.
Oh, wow. I packed this one. Avocados at law.
I never got that joke.
Abogados.
Avocado.
Spanish for lawyers. Right?
Of course.
Foggy was really drunk one night and I don't know, stupid. It somehow became avocados at law. I'm glad you're back.
I love that Karen has finally found out the avocados at law joke. She's like, I never got that joke, because it comes up like 2 or 3 times in the Netflix Daredevil 3 seasons. And every time they're like, we'll explain it to you later. It's a dumb joke. But we actually got to see the flashback of Matt and Foggy back in college days when he's like, avocados, which is Spanish for lawyers, but he accidentally said avocados at law, and that stuck. And I love this little joke and little nods and connections to Foggy still. And Matt looks at her at the end of that clip and says, I'm glad you're back too. And she kind of like awkwardly goes, yeah, back to what we were doing. And Karen goes and finds the box with the file in it that Foggy was going to file against Vanessa. And they find out that Red Hook is a free port with no customs, taxation, and what the Fisks have been up to with these ports, laundering money, and, what Vanessa's been doing for years, laundering money in this port. And Matt's like, they want to create their own city-state with this project of revitalizing the port, and realizing that Fisk was right. Like, they used to make millions through this port, now they could make billions. But at the same time, Frank, back at his place, hears on the radio comms that the Taskforce is falling back to the Red Hook ports. And Frank goes to do something about the Punisher fanboys, and Frank starts taking them out. And for some reason, the Taskforce wants to talk to Frank, and they are using non-lethals against him, which is a poor decision, because it's Frank versus all of the fanboys and girls, and starts killing a bunch of them, but they eventually overwhelm him and beat him down and tie him up to a chair. We then see that Sheila had a recording of Commissioner Gallo and that whole conversation that he had with her, asking her support against Fisk, and she's showing it to Fisk, but Fisk is like listening to it, and you can see his like angry, plotting Kingpin face as his hands are just like twitching in the background. And Sheila's out in the hallway scared for her life. She like shows him the recording and walked out to the hallway just to be like, oh my god, please don't kill me too. Like Sheila is scared for her life, but she's so scared of Fisk that she's willing to go against the commissioner, and just knows how far gone New York is and how much Fisk is running shit. Like, terrible. But we then see Gallo goes to his car to go home, and his driver is a new driver, and it's some rookie that he used to know when he was a rookie, and now he's like probably a, still like first or second year cop or something like that. But he goes, wow, you got some new ink on your neck, and we see that this new driver has a Punisher tattoo on his neck. And he says, yep, Fisk recruited me. I'm just trying to do whatever I can to stay alive. And he's like, yep, I understand. Oh boy, poor Gallo. We then see Frank tied up in front of the entire fan club and decked out in Punisher gear. And Powell is like, it's an honor to meet you, Castle. We admire your work, and a lot of these guys idolize you. And they want him to join the Anti-Vigilante Taskforce. And they're like, listen, everything you do and everything you stand for, you could do with us. And, you took out a lot of my guys tonight, but I'm hoping this is worth it. And Powell's trying to win over Frank Castle to be on their side, because they're like, they look up to this Punisher thinking that they are him, but they aren't fucking Frank Castle. They don't know him. I hate these cops. I love Frank Castle, but I hate these cops. Especially Powell. Oh my god, I can't stand Powell. And at the same time as Powell is talking to Frank about this, we see that Gallo gets brought to Fisk. But cutting back to Frank, Frank's like, you admire me, huh? You're out of your fucking minds. You're a bunch of fucking clowns. Admire me? You think you know my pain? My loss? And Frank is going off in this scene. He's like, you think you know my loss? How I see the world? You know how I see the world? And then he says to Powell, I won't fucking piss on you if you were on fire. You got that? And Powell's like, I'm sorry to hear that, Frank. And then Frank starts to take a beating, taunting them as they do it. The guy punches him. He's like, all right, that was just so bad. He punches him again. He goes, I'm still here. You know, like Frank's taunting him as they do it. I'm like, oh man, Frank's such a savage. We then realize back over with Gallo and Fisk, and Gallo realizes, he's like, oh my god, I was right all along. You never stopped being the Kingpin. You can't. And Fisk takes this personal, and Fisk starts punching him and squeezing Commissioner Gallo's head until they show us Fisk ripping his head apart and the squish noises. Oh god, like oh god, it looks brutal. Like, what a gruesome death. I don't even know if I'll be able to show these images because YouTube might not like it, but Gallo absolutely demolished. And, you know, you're like, oh my god, how'd they rip this guy's head apart? They physically made a giant prosthetic of Commissioner Gallo's head to be ripped apart. And, I mean, it looks legit. Like, that's crazy. But wow, like what a scene. Like, Netflix Daredevil, I don't think they ever showed us, like, they showed a guy, like, they didn't show the head, but they showed Fisk slamming a guy in a car door and then blood splattering, which is like the furthest the Netflix went. I don't remember them actually ever showing a guy's head explode. Like, they didn't even cut away from it. Like, he just is holding it, and his eyes start to become bloodshot, and he's like, you know, as he's getting Kali vice gripped for the WWE people, and fucking just squeezing his head, and then all of a sudden he rips the top of his head off, breaks the jaw, and almost like snaps his head, like the actual skull, in two. Fisk has been working out. This man is jacked. And as he rips apart, and as he's squeezing Commissioner Gallo's head, he's saying, we will not let anyone threaten our homes, in this gruesome death for Commissioner Gallo, in front of a bunch of Fisk's rookie Taskforce members and new members that he's trying to induct into his Anti-Vigilante Taskforce. And, you know, he's clearly building out his police force for himself. And especially if there's no commissioner anymore, he just murdered him, like, come on. We then see Matt and Karen make their way over to the port, and it's crawling with Taskforce. And Karen pleads with Matt to not go in there and die. Be smart about this. And it kind of works. And Matt says, we can beat him, but we need an army. Ooh, who's Matt's army? The Defenders? Was my first initial thought. We don't necessarily see his army in this episode, but by the end, we'll talk more about who his potential army could be. Because when Matt and Karen are talking about needing an army, we then see Heather is joining Fisk's army and goes to talk to Fisk and calls him Sir. Hello, Sir. He's like, how are you doing? You okay? And he asks Heather to be his commissioner of mental health, and she says yes, it would be an honor. Traitor. Heather is a traitor. Screw this bitch. I liked her, now I hate her. Fuck Heather. We then see Fisk take to the news saying Gallo resigned when the city was in chaos, and effective immediately, all vigilante activity is illegal and will be dealt with accordingly. Also, curfew is 8 o'clock, so everyone in the city has to be in, New York City has to be in at 8 o'clock. It's the city that never sleeps. 8 o'clock curfew. Crazy. And then the city will also be in martial law. So heading into season 2, New York's in martial law. Wild. And then he ends his little talking to New York saying, never forget, I love New York. And then like a long pause, where I'm like, that pause went on way too long. As it cuts to black. And then we fade over to a shot of young Matt, where it's an actor cast as young Matt just for this one scene, standing looking out the window, as he has no lines, because as we see younger Matt, it's just a shot, you know, of older Matt talking about what he was thinking when he was a kid, talking to Karen, and says he believed when he was a kid after his accident that God took his sight. And when he was older, he thought God gave him a special destiny, like a mask and a purpose could save his life. But he says, I thought I was immune to the darkness, but I let it creep inside me. And Matt tells Karen that he wanted to kill Poindexter, and ever since Foggy died, he hasn't known who he is. And Karen kind of like holds him and like hugs him and like holds his face and is like, listen, Foggy knew who you were and knew you for the good and the bad, and so do I, and kisses him on the forehead. And I have the actual like conversation here. And Matt says, I didn't know who I was anymore. And Karen sighs and she says, Foggy believed in you. That's the dark and the light. He knew all of it. All of it. That's wrath and that's mercy. He knew you. And I do too. And kisses him on the forehead. But like, I love that Karen and Matt, and she's holding Matt again, like closely, and that they're together again. Like, I thought they were going to kiss for good. Like, she's kissing him on the forehead. So this is maybe Matt and Karen forgiving each other, and Karen and Matt being together again, which is like a consolation prize. Like, if I don't get the trio again, at least by the end of the season, I got to have Karen and Matt together again. Because, like, Heather was fine, and Kirsten and Cherry are fine. But Foggy and Karen are the people. And as Karen kisses him on the forehead, and Matt puts on his Daredevil mask, and we hear Everything in Its Right Place by Radiohead plays. And it's really ironic because everything is in its exact wrong place right now in the city. But Matt puts on his Daredevil mask and walks out to Josie's bar, where we see the only good cops left in the city, with like Angela, I don't know, the cop that was giving Cherry a hard time, and the cop that did like the hostage negotiation for the bank episode. She's a good cop. Cherry's still a good cop. You know, so there's people like that and other good cops left. Not many, but all of the good cops are here at Josie's bar as Matt and Karen are building out his little army, and Josie's, you know, saying this is home base. And we hear Matt gives a speech as, you know, we're cutting around the faces of this bar, and then we're cutting around to, you know, other people in the city and other things going on. And Matt says, I can't see my city, but I can feel it. The system isn't working. It's rotten, corrupt. And we see Fisk has people of interest to him. The swordsman locked up, and Frank Castle locked and chained up. And Fisk and Vanessa are having dinner in front of the bloody rabbit in the snowstorm painting together. So they are fully king and queen of New York back together. Kingpin and Queenpin together, rising stronger than ever. But as Matt's giving the speech to the cops, and we're cutting between Fisk and now Matt's potential army, we see Angela Del Toro, Hector Ayala's niece, potentially becoming the future White Tiger, maybe. Kirsten McDuffie, Matt's law partner. Bullseye, which is somewhere out there, you know, adjusting his painting. He's got glass broken, and he seems to be struggling, but he doesn't want to be working for Fisk. Maybe Bullseye will join the team, and also Heather is going to be with Kingpin. We also see BB Urich is like infiltrating Fisk's office still and playing both sides and playing Daniel. And we also see Karen and Josie also at Josie's bar as Matt's giving this speech, and he says that this is our city, not his, and we can take it back together. The weak, the strong, all of us. We must resist, rebel, rebuild, because we are the city without fear. And we close on Matt looking out Josie's window in the Daredevil costume as the man without fears, looking out the window as this tense music builds, as the credits cut. And you're like, oh, that's a wrap on Daredevil Season 1, as the closing shot of Daredevil looking through the window that at the very beginning of this season he broke through trying to save his best friend after he got shot, but was unsuccessful. I still think Foggy's alive, but what a season 1. But there's a post-credit scene, and we see Frank starts to chat up a guard named Anthony, with a crazy Italian last name. But he's one of Fisk's Taskforce, and clearly a new rookie member. And Frank talks this dumbass into shaking his hand and goes, "Thank you, Anthony," and pulls his arm in and breaks his arm. And so Frank will be loose in unlocking himself from this cell, this cage that he's in. But that's where the post-credit scene ends. And I was just imagining, like, imagine everyone else in that room. Like, we know swordsmen and a bunch of women and other rich people that Fisk has locked up are in here. what was their reaction? Like, they hear this guy's arm break, were they all just like, oh, Jesus? Was Swordsman like, hey, could you use those keys to unlock me too? I would like to get the fuck up out of here. Like, that's the end of season 1. In the city, heading into season 2, the city will be in martial law. Matt's forming an army, but of who? Maybe Bullseye and Frank, with the good cops, Kirsten and Karen. The Defenders, maybe. Also, the Defenders be in here. I would love that. Echo, maybe. I would love to see Echo, friggin' Lockwood Cox, come back as Echo and go up against Fisk with Daredevil, Punisher. Kamala's father was in this season, so maybe Miss Marvel. She was forming a team with Kate Bishop, Hawkeye, so maybe Hawkeyes, maybe Jeremy Renner too. I'm thinking season 2 might be building towards like a kind of street level event where like we need a bunch of vigilantes who are all, you know, it's illegal to be a vigilante in New York right now, and New York is a home to many of a vigilante. So Spider-Man, you know, now it's illegal for Spider-Man to be Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man 4 could have this, maybe, because Spider-Man comes out May of next year, I believe, or July, and maybe Daredevil Season 2 comes out, sets up a Kingpin versus vigilantes with Spider-Man teaming up with the Defenders, maybe Moon Knight, maybe Bullseye, Punisher, maybe all of them. The Defenders, like, I think it could be leading to a Fisk at the like the president level of power type of shit, taking down, you know, well, president of New York. I don't think Fisk wants to be the president of the United States. I think he just wants to run New York and have this be his stronghold, if you know what I mean. And I think it's really, really well done. Like, I have really enjoyed this season. I really enjoyed this finale episode. And for an episode in a season that got reshot halfway through and had to be fixed and changed, and the stuff they used versus the stuff that was reshot, like, for a show that went through changes, this is a pretty cohesive, great season of television, and I am ecstatic to see a fully cohesive season 2, right? And this season, even with the reshoots, it feels like there's a clear vision for what they want to do with multiple seasons going forward. And they're already greenlit season 2, and they're already talking about season 3 and possible infinite seasons after that, because there's so many stories to tell. And if I'm saying, if we get 3, 4, 5, 6 more seasons over the next 10 years of my life of seeing Charlie Cox be Daredevil, and he'll be fucking 60 by the time he's done, I am here for it. I don't care. I love Daredevil. I love Kingpin. I love Wilson Fisk. I love Karen. I love Foggy. I love these characters so much. And Foggy is alive. I am standing on that ground. And if he's not, and he's just a flashback in season 2, because, you know, confirmed, Foggy will be back for season 2. In what way? I don't know. But it feels like an absolute kick in the cock to Eldon Henson that you bring him back after the reshoots and then kill him in the first 15 minutes of the show, never to be seen again in season 1. Fuck you guys. Unless he was busy shooting something else, fuck you guys. Oh, I can't stand it. Foggy better be alive. Comment below your thoughts. Is Punisher going to be... Oh, also, question. Is the Punisher special that Jon Bernthal is working on, because it's going to be like a special presentation, is that going to come out before season 2? Kind of bridging the gap of like what Frank's up to escaping from that cell, you know what I mean? I wouldn't mind the Punisher special before season 2, and then, you know, leading into season 2. That would be cool. But if it comes after, I mean, I'm still going to watch it either way. But comment below. Do you think Foggy's alive? And do you think the Punisher special is coming before or after Daredevil Born Again season 2? Comment below your thoughts on the whole season and this episode, the finale. What would you rank this finale? I mean, the whole season, it's up there for me, man. It really is. Like, it's maybe not as good as Loki. I really loved Loki, but I think it might beat out WandaVision for me. Even with its problems, I think I just love these characters so much more. I'm not saying I don't love Vision and Wanda. I mean, they're right up there. You know, I love them, but not Charlie Cox, Daredevil, Karen Page, you know, Foggy, Jon Bernthal's Punisher. I love these characters, I really do. But that's it for me, y'all. Thank you guys so much for coming on by and supporting. And if you've made it this far in the video, please consider supporting the channel and liking this video, commenting down below, subscribing if you haven't already are all great ways to support the channel. Make sure you hit that bell notification so you get the notifications when new videos come out. And I'll see you guys next year for Daredevil Born Again Season 2. We got Andor coming up and The Last of Us Season 2 underway, so there will be more Comically Boston TV show breakdowns coming to the channel very soon. Also, Monday morning, weekly nerdy news podcast, always going to be out talking about all the crazy news from the week, or from the previous week, you know, so I catch you up on Monday for anybody that didn't catch the news, and movie reviews in between, Lego content, unboxings on the weekends. Stay tuned for more content, y'all. I really appreciate everybody that comes on to the channel and checks it out. And if you stayed this long, my social media links are down in the description below. Message me on my other social medias. Let's chat more about Daredevil and other Marvel stuff and nerdy content. I'd love to chat more with you guys and engage with the community more. And I've been getting a lot more commenters and likes recently. And 99.9% of the people have been really positive and nice, and thank you guys so much. I love you guys, but I've been rambling now at this point, so I love you. See you guys in the next one. Peace.